Hey, were you jamming out over there to your intro song?
Yeah, it's really starting. It's funny because I was listening to it and I was like, man, like we really haven't switched this song since the beginning. But then like now, I feel like now it's getting to the point where it's like synonymous with Jump Street, you know?
It
So it's
is.
like,
Shout out to, I think Demigod is the guy's name who we got the intro track from. So shout out to Demigod for providing us with the track, even though it wasn't for Jump Street. But I reached out to him and he was like, "Yeah, you can use it for your podcast," and that was it. So shout out to that
cool,
guy. I think he's linked in the
very
description actually if anyone wants to go check him out of every
dang
episode.
cool. I
So
mean, he made that. That's cool. That works
yeah,
for us, you know.
yeah, hell yeah.
So I
But
mess
what's
with
up?
that.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. How you doing today, Billy?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Good morning to everyone who's joining us from the West Coast. Good afternoon to everyone on the East and everyone who was able to make it out in Europe. Good evening. So, thank you for joining us today on this very special episode. We've been trying to get this guy on our podcast for probably like 100 episodes, I think. And
Literally, yeah.
yeah, and he's such a busy guy, and he stays moving, and so we could never really connect in the right times, and we have like a kind of particular schedule where we do our podcast in like a small window,
Mhm.
so we never were able to get him on the podcast, but we finally got him on now, so I'm very excited to talk to him. I remember first seeing his skating like 15 years ago, and just being like something is different about this guy. He came off like as I've stated on this show many times, like one of my earliest, biggest influences in my life in skating was Dustin. Not my life in skating was Dustin Latimer, and I remember first seeing Mathieu Ledoux, and I just remember he had that like same kind of approach to skating where he kind of didn't like stick in the here's my SAT word I learned from Colin in the pedagogical boundaries that we have created in our sport. He never really applied or stayed within those lines. So I was always
Yep.
fascinated by his skating. I'm very excited to have him on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to it. But before we get into it, I would like to do my little spiel as I have done over 136 times, if you count the Channel 11s. But please, if you don't follow us already, please follow us on all of our social media platforms. We have a Facebook, you give us a like. We have an Instagram, you can follow us. We have a YouTube. You can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get alerted when we have an episode. These subscriptions really help us get like boosted to the algorithm. You know, you could leave a comment, you can do whatever. All these interactions really help boost our podcast to the front of the thing. We also have an iTunes. If you like what you're hearing, you can give us a 5-star rating, you can give us a review. It provides the same function. It just helps boost our thing up in there. Get blading up on top, get it a little higher, you know what I mean? Climb the ladder. It'd be nice for blading to do that. So if you want to do that, that would be very helpful for us. And we are also we have a Patreon. You could be a Patreon for as low as $3 a month. When you become a Patreon, you have access to exclusive content. We do section commentaries with our guests. We just did one with Colin Kelso. We got one at the end of this episode with Matthew Ledoux. We do three-piece. We do inside outs, trick tips. I got to say, we've been slacking on that a little bit. I've been trying to get out this week and get some stuff done, but I haven't been able, like, I've been having some bad skate days. So I'm going to
We're
try
gonna
to get out
catch
there
up.
I'm going to try to get out there today and tomorrow and do some inside outs. Let us know in the description or in the comments if there's anything that you particularly would like to see on an inside out, and that could give us some direction of what we might be able to provide. And yeah, that's it. So we really appreciate everyone coming to watch this episode, joining us in the live episodes, watching when we're not live, liking all this stuff. It's helpful. So thank you. And that is my spiel for today.
Good spiel, Billy. I'll get on to my spiel with thanking the sponsor of this episode, and it is Blank. Everybody be sure to check out that 2023 Blank Team Skate in very unique pigeon blue colorway. I don't really think it's blue. I say more of like a purpley gray. But either way, still really cool and really unique. The Team Skate is a minimalist, streamlined skate where all the team riders have some input to make something that is timeless and features all the best components right out of the box. Some of the features are 60 millimeter hydrogen wheels with twin cam bearings, a direct mount one-piece sole plate, to provide a strong connection from the frame directly to the shell, and a premium V2 memory foam liner and footbed that work together to provide optimal stability and comfort. Like the Sean Keane Pro Model Skate, the Team Skate is available in individual size shells to provide high performance fit and the perfect skate feel. So pretty much if you're like a size 8 is a size 8 shell, a size 9 shell, and so on. The skate's available now worldwide for only $2.99 US, whatever it is in euros, pounds, yen, do the math. I'm sorry, I don't have all that for you, but really good price point for a complete high quality skate like this. So go check out blankrollingproducts.com to learn more, or give them a follow on Instagram at blankrollingproducts. Be sure to check out that 2023 Blank Team Skate. And thank you for sponsoring this episode. That was my spiel.
Whoa, that was a good spiel. And I gotta say, I like how you brought the other currencies into the mix. That was cool. That was thoughtful.
I didn't have emojis for these currencies like I do with the jump supplements video. But yes, and I fucked up last week and I forgot the WTF. Nobody in the chat reminded me. I'm blaming it on everyone in the chat. You all should have reminded us that we skipped the WTF, but I don't want to overlook it this time. So the WTF this week is it's a collaboration actually from Rob Scallon and Tree, brought to us by Patreon supporter Jonathan Martin. Billy, your reaction to this was the best when you first saw it.
Everything about this clip is gold. Like, look at like the determination on Rob's face when he starts skating. Like, he's so in the zone, and then Tree is just chilling.
Yeah, Tree's face, I think, to me is what like makes it. He's like, oh, what's going on, guys? Oh, you're just gonna soul grind my arm? Okay. And this is the first time I've ever seen anybody grind a body part before. So
yeah,
I love this one. A lot of humor in this as well.
Yeah, I think this clip deserves like an Oscar or something like that. This clip deserves an award. This is freaking hilarious. I really like this one, and a big fan of both guys. So
yeah,
huge
definitely.
shout out to Rob, who we've had on the podcast, and huge shout out to Tree, who we should have on the podcast.
We are gonna have on the podcast. We definitely
great to have him on the podcast. We got to check with him, but he's one of the most fascinating skaters out there too, man. He does like some of the hardest tricks on some of like the worst skates. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
that's just the way he is though. And yeah, we definitely want Tree on. If you want Tree on the show, let us know in the chat as well. But I was gonna say whose idea was that, but I'm pretty sure it's obvious that it was Tree's idea.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna offer to, you don't ask someone if you can grind their arm, you offer it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You don't say, hey, dude, do you mind if I grind your arm? It's kind of like intrusive. Like you say, hey, dude, grind my arm. You know?
Awesome. But congrats to Rob and Tree for that WTF. Is that everything, Billy?
I think so.
Chat, is that everything? Are you going to remind me if I forgot something? I hope so.
Okay, Austin, you got to start taking responsibility. Chat, you don't have to do anything. You're fine. Just enjoy chat.
I know the chat's not going to hold back. That's why I go to the chat.
Good. Go to the chat, man. The chat keeps it real.
And they do keep it real. They let us know when we sound like shit. You might as well let us know when I miss something part of the show.
It's checks and balances, checks and balances with the chat. So huge shout out. Everyone in the chat, thank you as always. Everyone in our audience, we're so happy to have you joining us. But now we got, I was corrected in the chat already. Mathieu Ledoux. I was saying Ledoux, so it's Ledoux. Sorry about that. And maybe he will correct me once again if I'm not saying it correctly. But very excited to have him on. Please, everyone, give a warm Jump Street welcome in the chat. We can't hear you, but cheer at your chair in front of your computer or in front of your phone. Clap, But we're gonna have Mathieu Ledoux come on.
I have a special intro for Matt for this guest, so
okay.
I hope we don't get blocked for this, but it doesn't matter. We get $1 from each episode monetization anyway. But everyone, welcome Matt Ledoux. That might make more sense to people later on in the show, possibly. But yeah, what's up, Matt? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. I'm really happy to be here. It's an honor, really. I like the show, and it's nice to be on the other side of it for this time.
Nice. I hope you enjoyed our little intro thing for you. Switch it up.
It's
very personal for you.
And the WTF of the week was pretty funny too. I wonder if he waxed his arm before a bit.
I was going to say that if he waxed it, if he iced it up a little bit. Tree's arm might not slide so well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been like I said in the beginning of the episode, it's been like I think around 100 episodes we've been back and forth communicating, trying to get you on this show, and we finally have you on. So thank you very much for joining us. I was first exposed to your skating. I was before this episode, I was really digging in trying to find the name of this video, but I couldn't. I was first exposed to your skating in like this Canadian video from like 15 years ago. You had the ender part in the video, and it was just like such a fantastic section. Again, I can't think of the name of this particular video. If you could help me in the chat, but you've been around in skating for a very long time. Can you think of it? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it's Appetite for a Destructure.
That's definitely it. That's definitely It's the destructure video. It was
Yeah.
the destructure
Yeah.
video. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So yeah, that was the first time I was introduced to your skating through time. Like we met like through SSM, through other things, and I would always hear about like your tales and your stories of stunt work and all these exciting things that you were doing out off your blades as well as on your blades. I'm looking forward to getting into all of these things, but since this is your first time on the show, I'm kind of wanting to dig into like your origins with skating and how you got started. You've obviously been around for a long time, so could you give us a little insight into like the beginning of how you started skating, your first video, first influences, like the scene in Canada, just like kind of that area?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like probably most of the Canadian guys, I started with hockey here. So that's how I learned how to skate first. And then I must have been 11. I saw the movie Prayers of the Roller Boys, and I was hooked. I saw a guy with his trench coat jumping down 2 stairs or something, and that was it. And one of my friend had some ultra wheels, and I tried them on, and jumping over a hockey stick and tried these 180s and some 360s, and I was hooked. And then eventually started skating, not knowing that there was a scene or anything, and jumping down a few stairs and higher stairs and doing 180s and some weird daffy grabs or whatever. And eventually there was a crew in my hometown that was skating too, what I didn't know. And when I met them, one of them had the video The Bottom Line. and
Oh wow!
and man, when I saw this video, I was tripping. And I borrowed the video for a weekend, and I must have almost damaged the tape because I was looking at it so many times. And then I discovered, grinds and proper grabs, and after that, 18 days and all of those videos after I got to see, and so that was my beginning. That's how I got into it.
I was about to say that's pretty early. Like bottom line is like even like me and some of my friend groups like we consider ourselves like older skaters, old school skaters, and like our first videos were like maybe Hoax 2 or like a VG 4 or 5. Bottom line, for those who don't know, was like the literally like I think maybe like
That's like 95, 94.
it's like well the first I think video from like Video Groove was like Dare to Air, right? And then the Bottom Line. And then after that, the VG series started. So like Video Groove, VG2, VG3, etc. So this is like one of the first skate videos.
95.
Like,
I just looked it up. Yeah, early.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
So in that, I would imagine that there's not many skaters around the scene. Like, and you were probably one of the first guys in your area to. By the way, where are you from? Montreal? Where are you from?
I'm from an hour east of Montreal, a small town called Drummondville, but Montreal area basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like that, I'm saying like there must have not been too many people in the scene at this time, or.
Well, it's in our hometown in Drummondville. There was like a huge crew, and it's like a funny thing, You would think this little town out of nowhere, French-speaking town. But it was like a legit crew, and some of them still skating today, actually. Pete and Dan Miller is from Drummondville. He's one of the owner of Orange Wheel. So we had a big crew there. And now Rob has been living in Drummondville, Rob G. And he's been hanging out with all of my old friends who used to skate back in the day. So it's amazing to see and witness Rob just spending time with my early age homies who used to skate, and they're all getting back into it a little bit. So it's been very nice to be in that. Actually, today we're all going to go skate together later on. So yeah, there was a big crew, and one of the guy had a bit more money back then, so his parents would always buy the new videos when they would come out. So we would all get to his place and start the session there, and he had a box in his driveway. So it was an amazing time. I mean, the scene was so big. And then we would go to Montreal together and meet other people from different scenes in Montreal and whatnot. And so, yeah.
It was I know that Rob was staying with you now. I was hoping he'd do like a little cameo, but he said he's out skating now. How's it been with Rob staying with you over there? I know he's been there before, obviously too, but he's in there for like a few months now, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, and he wants to spend, actually, he's gonna spend the whole winter here. He wanted to experience a Canadian winter from the main
Oh,
to the end. So, but he's not living with me actually. He's living, I'm half an hour town. I live out in the country, in the woods.
oh,
And
okay.
he lives in town with Pete, one of my good friend who skates, Pete Byrne. Um, but it's been very nice. I go as much as I can, and when I go to town, I hook up with him, and we had a beautiful wizard session together the other day, and had a great time. And
Ooh.
Rob is a dear brother of mine, so we can share on many levels and many things, and so it's nice.
Um, so you have been messing with the wizard skating, both of you guys doing the wizard?
I was more me for now. Rob is just getting into it, and he wants to.
Mhm.
But I've been at it. I've been actually waking up at 5:30 in the morning, and I go skate as the sun rise. And for the last 2 weeks, like 2 hours every morning, I'm hooked, man. And I've been having a break from work a little bit, so I have more time. And there's an ice ring which doesn't have ice yet. It's like a hockey ring, a perfect flat concrete spot. And I put on some music, and I have like 2 hour session. I get drenched in sweat, and man, it's so fun. And I texted Leon the other day because I had tears in my eyes. It's like I haven't felt that skating for a long time. So it's been amazing actually playing with the Wizards. Yeah.
Damn, you do 2 hours a day on Wizards?
Yeah, like Tuesday, I went to the gym in the morning with my wife. Then I had a 2 hour session Wizard. Came here, had some food, and I went out to Montreal and I had a 3 hour regular anti-rocker skate session, which which felt very weird at first to go from 2 weeks on the Wizard to a anti-rocker setup inside, which is super slippery, right? I had to adjust for like half an hour.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm surprised you skate anti-rocker also. The way you skate, it's so ninja-y. I feel like a flat rocker setup would suit you well. But I see you posted the other day that you had the Wizards on, and you didn't post any clips. You just posted like the Wizard skate. I'm like, damn, that was like such a tease because I wanted to see you actually skating.
Yeah,
Especially if you're skating 2 hours a day.
yeah, I'm waiting until it's ready to show what I've been doing with them.
Damn.
But man, I never realized how hard it is actually watching Leon and Colin and Stuart and even the other Colin Kelso. Even if he says that he doesn't, uh, he's really good at it. As with the clip, the reel they posted on Basement,
Mhm.
to to my perception, of course. And yeah, I never realized how good these guys are with that. And so playing around at first, I felt like a retard. It's like what? How? But now I'm understanding more, and when I'm seeing videos, I understand what they're doing, and I have my own style, of course, and my own approach to it. Some people like to spin a lot. Uh, for me, spinning too much is not my thing. Um, but yeah, they're really fun.
Yeah, everyone has their own style of skating alone, let alone when you put the wizard skates on, you have your own style that you add into that too. And everyone just has their own little mix of what they do. I'm very curious. I've seen you skate wizards before. I feel like you had a wizard edit like a long time ago, but I just the new stuff now, whatever you're working on, if you are working on anything, to see more recent wizard stuff with some parkour influences. And that's going to be really interesting to see also.
Hmm.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I was gonna actually what Austin touched on. I was gonna mention and dig into. So it seems like you're a lot of like even from the early days, like a lot of your influence inside rollerblading came from outside rollerblading. I think the one of the more obvious places to point to would be probably like the parkour or free running that people do. Is it was definitely like a part of the mix, but where did that come from? Like that this approach to skating, because especially like in rollerblading from the bottom line days, like it was a very structured way of how to and how not to rollerblade. And I feel like you pushed back on that from like very early days when I didn't see many people doing that. I always attribute like Dustin Latimer as being one of those guys who opened my eyes to what's possible on blades. But you were doing that as early as Dustin, maybe even earlier to my knowledge. I don't know, but where did that come from, and how did that approach start to integrate into your skating?
Yeah. Well, at one point, at first I was just doing the regular skating, just doing as everybody else, which is totally fine. And eventually I worked for the Cirque du Soleil for a few months.
Mm.
And on the show, we had to do some parkour. And then they brought in the Yamakasi guys, who some of the founders of this discipline. And we got to train with them and learn the depth and the basics and so much about parkour, the culture and the philosophy. And I fell in love with parkour. They call it the art of movement. And eventually I got more into parkour than skating. I kind of stopped skating for a while, and I was 100% just parkour training. And I was doing stunts, so it was a good combination for me to bring that into my stunt career. And it was getting more popular, so I was getting job from stunts from my parkour skills. So it was just a perfect timing. And eventually, when I got inspired to skate again, well, naturally, my body was just, I feel like doing a Kong. I got my skates on. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And then I realized quickly how I could, especially in street, obviously, some obstacles would be perfect, or, to incorporate these moves. But I don't try to do parkour when I'm skating all the time. It's not like I'm at the park and I have to do some Kong all the time.
Right.
But if I film street and there's a perfect obstacles or a line that could allow me to do something and put something there, I might, just because it's fun.
Yeah. I remember even like from one of our earlier meetings. I remember like because you mentioned stunts there and like part of your stunt career. I remember meeting you years ago, and then hearing that you had, to our introduction, you had been in 300, the movie, and you were also doing stunts in movies. And I remember thinking, wow, like that's a guy who found like his talent in rollerblading and was able to like turn that into like a career, turn that into money. Um, Along the way, like in speaking to, I learned that a lot of it has to do with a lot of discipline that you have in terms of how you care for your body, your health. So was that always like an important factor for you in skating? Like like you said, the parkour is like a high movement thing. Like it's the like the art of movement, and I feel like you really embrace that in your skating, and you can like you need your body to be able to be up to the task. So I'm just curious, like how that all is a part of your life and how that became part of it.
You mean taking care of my body?
Yeah, like taking care of your body,
Yeah.
getting into like stunts, being able to like transition from like skating to like making a stunt career, and like how that all like integrates and plays with one another. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I got into stunts. Actually, it goes way back in high school. We had the teacher asked us 10 things we want to do later on in life, from the first to 10, like the most prioritized that you would love to do. And then, and my first one was to be a stuntman. But, I had no clue how to get there, and there's no schools, and so how do you go about that? But that was my first one on the list. So and then the second one was like firefighter or something, and then so on.
Boring stuff.
Yeah. So, but not necessarily. I mean, if you would love to do whatever.
Well,
But
compared to
for
a
me,
stuntman.
stuntman.
Yeah.
So I give my paper to the teacher, and he's like, stuntman? No, you can't choose that in college, or you need to choose something from. And I said, hold on, you asked me what I wanted to do, not what I wanted to study. Like,
Hmm.
okay. And then eventually I just followed what I love to do, which was skating, obviously. And there was a American movie that came to shoot in Montreal called Rollerball, with
Oh
LL Cool
yeah.
J and Chris Klein, and they're getting pulled by a motorcycle on the eight-figure ring with the steel
Yep.
ball,
Hmm.
right? So they had a auditions at the local skate park in Montreal, and I went there, did very good, and I haven't heard from them. And then I called my buddy. I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna work on this movie, so we can actually shoot our skate video this year. And he said, well, no, I just dropped John Bling there, and they hired me on the spot. And I'm like, really? Because I was a bit better than him, or more suited for that job, I guess. So I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna show up there. I showed up and I got the job, and I got on my first actual movie. And then I met some stuntmen that was, career guys, and became friends with them, and eventually started training different ways, martial arts, and I got into the stunt world. I just need to cut that up. Yeah.
So you weren't
Sorry,
like
guys.
actual stunt man for that? You just rollerbladed, or you did stunt training for that, and that just led into it?
At first, it was just rollerblading, but eventually, when the stunt coordinator noticed that I had a calling to become a stuntman, he actually took me from some real stunts. So they, picked me up with cables, and I got hit by the motorcycle and flew on my back. And
So you were a natural.
yeah, well, I had no clue what was happening. It's like, okay, this cable, we're gonna attach it to your leg, which you have a harness, right? Obviously, but okay. And then the motorcycle will come, and I was just learning English too, so everything at the same time was a lot for me. And okay, 3, 2, 1, action. Okay, I'm just skating, and the motorcycle hits me, and I had no clue how my body would react in the air, and ended up just on my back perfectly, without breath, obviously, from the impact. But so it was quite an experience for me to be there at 18, turning 19. First movie, learning English. I broke up with my first girlfriend. I met a makeup artist. She was 30. I was 19. She was from Hollywood. So I learned a lot during that movie in many ways. Yeah, and then we had a 2-week break, and I went to California for the first time to skate. And I don't know if you guys remember the 3 rails at Irvine, the sweat stands, then the alley-oop topsoul, and the back royale back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was during that trip. That was during our break shooting rollerball. I'm speaking a lot of different things now, but okay, let's go back to your question.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No. It's okay, because I feel like my question was kind of broad. But so yeah, I think that's kind of what I was curious about. I was curious, like, your introduction into stunts, because along the way, I feel like a lot of bladers feel like that's something that is like suited for them. I know for a while, like, I was like, man, I would love to do stunt work. You know what I mean? Like, being that, and then hearing that you were able to do it, and from such a young age. Like, I didn't know you had started at 18, and
Yeah.
I could see that, like, getting in there, meeting people, getting in the industry. It seems like you got into martial arts from the career. Is that correct, or did you do martial arts from before that?
I did boxing before that.
Okay.
I did boxing for a few years, but when I got into stunts, I got really serious about it. So I started training wushu, which is the art of kung fu, I guess. Some kickboxing, some Kali, some Muay Thai. I really got into it. And then gymnastic, parkour, free running. And I was pretty disciplined about it, actually. I think I'm cutting. Yeah. So my career was my whole life at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Austin.
No, I was gonna say that you seem like a natural at it. I don't know if that came from all this training, like the way your body moves when you skate. At least you seem like a natural at it, and I know that a lot of when you're a stuntman, you have to know how to like fall and all this stuff. And I feel like that's such a big part of skating is knowing how to fall. It's probably just as important as knowing how to do the tricks themselves. Did one come after the other? Did they go like hand in hand? Did like you learn how to fall from like being a stuntman and you translated that to skating, and it helped you in a lot of ways? Because it's so hard to teach people how to fall, I think, without actually just busting your ass all the time.
Yeah, I think one of the key to become a good blader is to learn how to fall or how to miss properly without hurting yourself.
Exactly.
But, once I got into stunts, I was like, oh, I can actually wear pads underneath my clothing, or sometimes we use mats. So for me, it's like, oh, I've been falling in stairs and on handrails and in the streets. So falling was a natural thing, or crashing was a natural thing for me. It was just a matter of make it look like you actually hurting yourself. Then, the acting part of it is a different thing because we don't think about those things. But if you fall on camera for a movie, you have to make it look like it hurts. So there's some acting and some techniques to
Right.
you know.
Which we know how to do too, because we've been hurt skating. So
Yeah.
we know how to we know how to act hurt because we acted hurt when we've been hurt. So I can see that being helpful.
You were like, you guys wear pads when you do this shit? Ah, you pussies, all of you. I've been falling downstairs my whole life, no pads.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me about if you don't mind, you said you went to California for the first time, and that's when you obviously it was for work, but you brought your inline. What? No, you said this was a break from work, right? Where you went?
Yeah, actually, it wasn't for work. It was a skate trip with Felix from the Structure and Thomas, who did 5 months. I don't know if you guys remember 5 months. It was a Canadian video who my good friend Thomas produced and filmed. So it was my first official skate trip to California, and we had a 2 weeks break from shooting the movie. And so when I left, I had Christmas here with my mother, who I grew up with, and then I was like, yeah, I'm off to California for 10 days, and I was like, man, I was so hyped seeing all those spots, and the concrete in California, the floor is so nice compared to Quebec, from winters. And so for me, it was like skating a skate park in street everywhere I was going, and it was an amazing trip. And then I don't know, let's go into that a bit, since I'm talking about myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, before I left, my mom shared that she wanted to break up with her boyfriend, and obviously I wanted to be here to support her. So I went to California, and when I came back, I had a call from my dad, 2 calls from him, 2 messages, which for me was special because I wasn't close to my dad at that point. And it was like, hey, son, we need to talk, call me back. And like, oh, cool, my dad wants to hang out and make things good again between us. But then when I got his second message, I had a weird feeling. So he said, I'm coming right away. So he came to my apartment. I had a little apartment near Montreal at that time. And when he arrived, I looked at him and I knew everything. And I just said, it's my mom. And he said, yeah. And I said, whoa, okay, she passed. And he said, yeah. And then like, oh, okay, he killed her. He's like, yeah. Coming back from my first skate trip, I come back to Montreal, and here it is. My mom just got murdered by her boyfriend, right? 19 years old. And I had to go back on the movie a few days after to finish the shooting. So that was quite a deep moment, in my life, and it shakes you up in many ways and wakes you up in many ways. And I just felt like sharing this here because I know, as human, we go through some stuff, and I think it's relevant to my story.
Wow.
It's crazy. I never knew that about you. Like you hear like tragedies through rollerblading, like secondhand often. This one I'm just hearing right now. I've never that's. First of all, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to hear that too.
That
That's a wild story.
in life, and I'm sure it was like that experience has contributed to who you are as a person after everything you've had to go through.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dig too deep on it, but I think can you stop her, please? Thank you. I don't. My dog is going nuts.
Yeah. No.
I don't want to dig too deep on it. But you said you still had to like go to work and stuff, and this is something I've actually I've lost both of my parents as well, not in such tragic circumstances, but it's difficult when you have these losses of family or friends that you're close to, and then like there's something that yet you have to do regarding work, and you have to like compartmentalize it. So like like I said, I don't want to dig too deep, and thank you for offering and sharing, because I know it's not easy to share, but what was your head like in that space where you had to like go and do something else and kind of put that to the side?
Yeah. Well, I had a good base, you know. My parents both loved me when I was a child, so I didn't have any major trauma to deal with already. So going back to work was fine. And like you said, you kind of consciously or unconsciously put it aside and just do what you have to do. And, you know, it's not like you're thinking about that all the time. But obviously, I knew the week after when I went back home, now I had to sit with that. Hold on, the light is in there. To sit with that, integrate the whole thing. A first movie, uh, different girlfriend, the death of my mom. So I couldn't sleep for almost 3 years. I had problems to sleep, so which was affecting my skating too. Uh, but like you said, it made me part of. It was a big part of who I am today, and it shakes you up so deeply in your core, like that. It kinds of yeah, it brings up deep questions when those things happens, and if you follow these questions, you get some answers, you know, and those answers free you in some ways and make you a more compassionate and whole human being. I don't say that I'm whole or compassionate, but you know, they can help you to they can facilitate that, you know. Um, but yeah, it was the integration part when I went back home was it was a deep one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I can only draw from. I've never experienced something like that. I've as humans we've all experienced some degree of loss another. So
Yeah.
I think I know what you mean, and like where when you go through something like that, it does you do ask those deeper questions, and you are kind of searching, and when you do, and you are awake to things that you really didn't have to think about before, or like, and you when you do ask those questions, you do certainly find some answers and stuff like that. So and actually like and again, I'm like I'm sorry that that happened, and thank you for
It's all good.
sharing.
It's all good.
Um, but uh, you can tell it actually makes sense, like part of that like I'm speaking to you now, because as I've spoken to you, even from back on the roof in Oakland years ago,
Mm,
I just always felt like you've been like a solid minded person, like very centered,
Hmm.
and it kind of makes a lot of sense now. um yeah, I don't know how to move on from this one. I'm gonna try to pivot back, bring it back to skating. But feel free to talk about whatever you want to talk about, and I'm not trying to.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
No,
not trying
no,
to
no.
like.
Let's go. Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So so yeah, during this time, wow, you're skating, you're trying to cope. I think we could talk about. So, what was your relationship like with skating after this time? Were you like questioning wanting to be a skater? Was it something you were still wanting to pursue? Like, what was your thing there?
Yeah. Well, first, for the first time in my life, I had some money aside from working on the movie. So I had time to skate. So I got a small apartment in Drummondville and just skated full time and trained until I ran out of money. And then like, okay, how do I get into stunts? Like really get into it, you know? That was my first show, and so I actually took a trip to Toronto where the stunt coordinator, sorry, who I worked with on rollerball lived, and his sons, Braden and Riley, were actually fans of my skating. So that was like a doorway open for me, you know, like a
Nice.
yeah, very nice. And they were super nice too, like a loving family, and I was stressed and a bit, you know, shy to actually go there, and my English wasn't what it is like today, even though obviously it's not perfect still, but uh so I drove there. They took me in their house, and I moved to Toronto for a few years trying to get into stunts, and it took a few months, and I was like 15 grand under, like no money, no, not even money for gas, and I was renting a room in Toronto, like
Starving artist.
almost, yeah, exactly. And eventually I got a gig on Tarzan and Jane, and that covered all
Nice.
of my. In 4 days, I covered all of my debt and gave me a inspiration boots and like a boost. And eventually, I went broke again. And then I was working in a chicken factory, like a slaughterhouse, because I had to take the first job available somehow. And I didn't have any money to eat, so I got that job. And a week after that, Cirque du Soleil called me, and I ended up working for the Cirque du Soleil, testing some stuff for the show in Vegas, the Love Show, and it was all related to rollerblade again. So that was crazy. We had big winch, super fast winch. So I would start. I have my hands like this here. So I would start. This is holding the handle for the winch, right? The rope. I would start very close from the jump, like a big launch jump. Let go of the thing,
Wow.
just like in skiing street, and then do some flips on the jump. And so we did some testing like that. And eventually I got on the creation part of the show, the Beatles show for Vegas. And after the 4 months, which I didn't skate once during just 4 months, I was doing some ropes, some ladder tricks, some other stuff. And they offered me a contract to Vegas for 3 years. And I had the pen in my hand. It was like 75 grand the first year. And I was in debt, I had no money whatsoever. And I had the pen in my hand. I was like, man, I want to do stunts. I don't want to Vegas. And so I put the pen down. And I took all of my courage, and I looked at the producers. She was super nice. And I said, listen, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I'm thankful, but I want to do stunts. And I had nothing in front of me, right? But 2 weeks after, I was on 300, the movie. Yeah.
So blessing in disguise, kind of?
Epic, that one, dude.
Yeah.
Damn. At all movies, too, at all job opportunities that come after putting that pen down. To get a movie like that is insane. And I don't know if we watched 300 together at my place in Arizona, but I feel like we watched the DVD or parts of the DVD together back in the day. But was that like, I'm not going to say like the highlight of your career because your career is still going on, whatever, but I feel like that's one of the bigger jobs you ever had, right?
Oh, it was
or more
highlight.
Fun, and it was the highlight so far.
It was the highlight, yeah.
So it is as cool as everyone thinks it is.
And this movie was incredible to work on. So, there were so many things about that. First, I was on with one of my best friends, Stefan Julian, who is also a good skater, who you might have seen. He's been part of the scene here since the beginning as well. And we lived together near Montreal, and we both got on the movie because there was auditions. And so first thing, I got on this movie with my best buddy. We've been training together. So just that was like, whoa, okay, let's do this. And then we had a month or 2 months maybe of training with some professional from LA. The guys actually who did the double for Neo in the Matrix, Chad Stahelski, which he's the director of the John Wick franchise.
Okay.
So learning with these guys, training with these guys, whole day, every day, 5 days a week, and physical training from Jim Jones, which is Mark Twight, like an incredible professional trainer, and fed. We had special food every 3 hours, and it was like a full-on regiment of stunt training. So it was amazing. 20 stunt guys every day, 5 days a week for a month or two, and then we got on to shoot the movie. So I learned a lot on that show and made some good connections, all from Toronto and Vancouver. And it's really the movie that actually got my career going. And then there's a Tourist Stunt Award, which is like an Oscar for stunts. And two of the Montreal guys got a tourist. There's a group of 10 of us in the whole movie. And me and my best buddy, Stefan, at that time, we both got one. So
nice.
I got a big tourist stunt award in my wife's parents' basement. So it was just epic, just a perfect thing in my life at that time. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And I met some amazing stuntmen who I still friend to this day with them. And so,
I got a confession to make. So when I first heard you were on 300, and then I met you, I was like, what? How is that even possible? Because the guys on 300, I thought they were huge, huge tall guys. and like you've always been jacked and fit, but like you weren't like really like big, like you know what I mean? Like you're like we're like
Yeah.
the same height, I think, like we're like, um, so I just thought they were like huge, like 6'6" dudes, like I'm like, how is that even possible? But then I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense, like you're shredded, right? Like, do you know what I mean?
I
But
was the smallest dude there.
Were
yeah,
you?
that makes sense. That
The
makes
youngest
sense.
and the
Yeah,
smartest.
that makes sense.
And also, I did the Spartans just a few times, and I was more in the background, and um, I actually doubled Leonidas once because I was small, and when he fights against the big dude, it kind of made the camera anyway.
Mm.
But I'm one of the guys who falls in the pit at the beginning. Those messengers when they fall in the pit.
Yeah.
I'm one of those
Oh
guys,
wow.
and then Leonidas, the kings, breaks out and start killing everyone. He throws his spears, wah, to a guy, and I'm the one getting the spears in my chest, and I go, wah, I go back like this, and so I've been doing many other things than just Spartans, which makes sense because I'm smaller, right? Hey, Sheila, who's here?
Hey, Sheila.
Hey.
Maybe my cat will join in too later on. Say hi. Yeah, weren't you like the first guy to get hit too during like the first battle or
Yeah,
something like that?
actually,
And I
yeah.
remember you told me that, and instantly I was like, "That is your face." Like the first guy
Yeah.
that got hit, he went and pulled the spear out of his arm or chest or something like that. And you told me that, and I was like, "Yep, that is you. That's like your face right there." So that is super cool to have under your belt to have. Be a part of 300, and the fact that you did so many different parts of it too. You weren't just like one person. It makes it that much better how dynamic your role actually was.
Yeah, it was just amazing.
Was that the best physical shape you've been in ever?
I'm in pretty good shape now, actually. I think I'm in the best shape.
Oh,
Sorry,
nice.
now that I ever been. Not as muscular because I don't have to, but shape-wise, like mobility-wise, and how my body feels, and I feel very good right now.
That's good to hear that you're getting older too. I saw like I remember years after that I saw Gerard Butler, and he was like fat and like fell off. I'm like, oh, this guy was like strictly just for the movie, and that really played that role
Yeah,
well. I was like, did
yeah.
everyone else do that?
Some of the stunt guys, yeah. At first, not everyone was happy about the intense physical training we had to endure, but I loved it, and I was giving it my 100%. I remember a night we end up filming. We wrapped at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and me and my two buddies had a training sessions after that in the gym, and the coordinators came by like, what you guys are doing? Like, go home, you guys are crazy. I loved it. I loved it.
You were hooked.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah, 300, man. First of all, I feel like I have to watch it now. I made a 300 reference the other day. It's such a good movie. And that's cool that you were able to be like a part of it and have like such like scenes that you could point out, because like a lot of the times in like these things you can't really identify it, but you have such like clear defined scenes that you were a part of. That's really cool. You were saying that it was like kind of a kickoff to your career, or something that kind of boosted your career in the
Hmm.
stunt world. So
Yeah.
what was to follow thereafter? How did that end up opening doors for you?
Well, most of the crew were from Toronto as well, and I got along really good with them. So I kind of moved to Toronto, and I guess I did a good impression on that movie. And after that, I was getting hired for many things, and eventually, I was doubling some leads on shows, on TV shows, um, and my career just went wow. And it was actually me at one point that decided to stop and not pursue, but I had different callings in my life, which was also a scary move because, uh, I remember one day going to work. Um, that was after working 6 months on a show, doubling the lead, which when you double the lead on an action show, you work every day. You're part of the creation, of the fight rehearsal, and so you're always involved. And then I got on Total Recall. And then after that, I was doubling the lead on Transporter, and halfway during the show, I was
Whoa, whoa,
driving.
hang on. On the transporter?
Yeah, the
Wh-
TV show.
Oh, sick. That's
Yeah,
so cool. Cool.
yeah. And one day driving to work, I was in traffic, and I looked at my left, and there was people in their car. And then I looked to my right, and And then I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, is it? This is the pinnacle,
The
you
pinnacle.
know, the pinnacle. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
pinnacle of a human existence. Like, no way, there's something way more deeper. And I got scared to miss out on, I guess, knowing myself on deeper levels. Um, and I went to work. I hit my head that day. And then I went home and I went to walk in the park. And then I started crying. And I was crying, like, what's going on here? And I had to stop. I had to call it a day. So the next day I went to work and I made sure I had someone to replace me, not to put no one in, the hot spot. And I quit that day. And it was halfway show. And that was a very scary decision because, you don't do that. Quit a show when you're doubling the lead and you're, um, how you say that in English? You're, how people think of you, like you're,
Perception,
not position, no,
Reputation.
yeah, thank you. Your reputation,
reputation.
yeah, your name, basically, what people are gonna say, but I had to do it, so I quit, went home, and booked a trip to Peru and start going to meditation retreats and just, wanted to experience. I had a different calling, inner calling, let's say. But it was very scary at first because my mind was like, "Are you crazy? You worked so hard for this career, and you're gonna just throw it all away, and what people are gonna think, and all of that." But at one point, it's like, "Hey, I don't care. This is what's calling me." I never hold back, even for that time with the Cirque du Soleil, and now I'm gonna listen to that. And as scary as it was, I did, and I'm today, I'm so grateful I did. But yeah, and then after the whole inner journey, now I can go back to work again in stunts and have a bunch of fun. And uh, yeah.
That's cool. It's like what you're saying. I'm actually able to relate to a lot in my own life because I feel like you have like these crossroads in life where it's like the smart, safe decision that like you should make, and then there's like what is speaking to you in your heart, like what your gut is saying, like what your passions are saying, and it can be scary, but I agree with you. I feel like there's not once you start feeling like that, there's not much of a choice. It's either like acceptance or denial of what's already occurring. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I definitely like admire your courage in these situations because I've definitely like it seems like once you make the decision you don't take any time to waste. You make the decision, boom, that's and on to the next thing. Like you said, you had this feeling and then you quit that day, right?
Yeah, I did. It was very scary
It's
looking back.
spontaneous.
It was very spontaneous. But after walking in the park by myself and crying, like really deep crying, like, whoa, okay, like I have to listen to that. Um, yeah, and then when I told my boss, he was very cool about it. He said, Matthew, before being your boss, I'm your friend. Go home, you know, do
That's
what you need to
cool.
do. Yeah, very cool.
That's homie
Um,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that helped me, just to feel at ease with my decision. And so I went home, and my wife was really happy and inspired by my decision. And we booked a trip to South America. We stayed for a few months, and then I started to, like I said, going a lot of meditation retreats and doing some self-inquiry and look at myself in different lands and deeper lands. And I think where I'm cutting.
I mean,
I think
to
that
be honest, it seems like that something deep in your psyche. Like I'm not. Disclaimer: I'm not a psychologist. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But it seems like something deep in your psyche, like you said, from what you had experienced in your youth with your mom, and then you just like it seemed like you were very busy after that, and you just stayed incredibly busy, and maybe didn't have the time to like address some of those feelings, thoughts, look at yourself like without because I know what it's like. I think a lot of people in New York can relate. You're just so busy all the time that you don't
Yeah.
gotta take a second to stop and look in the mirror and be like, what the hell am I even doing? Like, what's next? Like, what's
Mm.
going on?
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
to make the time to ask those questions, and especially
Yeah.
like when there's been trauma endured and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
how was that? How was that experience for you? Was it something that was what you thought it would be? Was it fulfilling? Was that time that you took like? It sounds like it was important and
Yeah. I mean, it shifted my life in many ways, and I'm so grateful that I listened to that calling, you know. Everything got enhanced. Although, not that I wasn't happy or my relationship was all good. Everything was all good in my life. Uh, but now it's just more richer. Everything is deeper, you know, yeah, when I had the chance to access deeper, you know, part of myself, everything gets deeper, all my relationships and everything get enhanced basically. And so it was amazing. And I learned to play because when my mom died, she was playing music and I got her guitar, which was just collecting dust for like 10 years. And when I went to Peru during the things we were doing over there was music. And then I heard that kind of music, like, oh my gosh. And I came home and I looked at the guitar. It's like, yeah, of course. And I picked up the guitar and been playing, you know, almost every day since and writing some songs. And so it really shifts my life in many ways. And also part of what we do today, my wife and I here, you know, we do some meditation retreats, some breathing techniques that we offer to people. So yeah, my life is shifted in many ways, but I'm still me. I'm still the old Mathieu, loving to skate and grabbing and making some fun maneuvers on plastic boots, you know. I just don't take myself as serious as I used to do when I was younger.
Question, because you mentioned movement a few times, and this is just a personal. Do you know Ido Portales?
Hmm.
I figured you would know him. He's a big guy on movement. Like
Hmm.
In what way?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
he's just like a movement kind of guy. Like
He's a
just
moving guy. What does that mean?
it's hard.
Yeah.
How would you describe this person, Matthew?
He's one of the best moving coach in the world. Um, he went deep into movement in many different traditions and approach to movements. Uh, and I think he's coming more now into from a hard place a bit more, I think too. Like I said earlier, like I don't think myself as seriously as I was when I was younger, and I think he also is moving into this. I haven't followed him for a long time, but
Hmm.
back in the day, I was finding him a bit too serious or too like into his own persona or whatnot. Not the
Hmm.
judgment against him, like he's amazing, but
Yeah.
I find that today seems like more soft, more playful, and more wise. I would say, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't want to go off on a tangent there, but it makes sense when you get like certain fame, you can start acting differently, and
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
I was going to ask because we've gone into a couple of things. We've talked about your stunts, and I want to get back into how you came back into stunts from Peru in a second. But throughout all of this, was there ever like a part of you that was like, obviously, like blading becomes more and less important in your life, but it's always there. It seems like.
Hmm. Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you're like feeling like disconnected from blading, or was that passion like always just a part of you because it's been there from such an early age?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's always been there, always. Even when I was not doing it, when I was more into parkour or even skiing. I got into skiing a lot at one point. Sorry, but it was always there. Just waiting the right moment to come back and poke me. You know, hey, and I don't know. Lately, with the state of the community and skating and how it is now, somehow my heart is just on fire again about skating and the community, and it's been so amazing to witness the growth and how more wise the community feels and more welcoming and positive and beautiful. So but it's always been there, even though I came in and out because of, when I was working 6 months on a show, there was no questions for me to go out and get a broken hand or something skating. It wouldn't make sense for me because my career was so important. um, but eventually I've kind of find the balance again, and I can do both.
Yeah, that's something. And I'm sorry, Austin.
No,
I'm
go
sorry
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
if I could. Thank you. But that's something I've always like noticed when people start to take on like careers and their careers more seriously, and like an injury from skating could be a threat to the career because a person works with their hands or they work with their body, and they don't want
Hmm.
to risk those things. You kind of start to see a little bit of a distance, but I just feel like it's always been such a big part of who you are that like I just didn't really see that that space, because like I know, like I was talking to Bellino about it, and I think there's a thing in blading where it's like, I never quit. I never quit. I was here the whole time. But I don't know if I think it's good to maybe stop or do it less sometimes, because you get to have a new perspective when you come back, and in like a new appreciation for it. So I think that those times where you're less intense with skating can be helpful. But I can relate, because I've always felt like even when I've taken breaks, I've always felt like at the core to be just always a blader. It's always there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's like in anything, right? In everything, I mean. I went to Brazil not long time ago for 3 months by myself, and my wife stayed here. And obviously, I wasn't skating. I was deep in the jungle in the Amazon, and um, being away or taking retreats outside the world or outside skating or outside things that we do on a regular basis can bring so much gratitude and so much, when you come back and when you miss it and when you realize all the blessings that you have at home. Or so taking time out of skating can be so healthy, I find, especially if
Yeah.
we're so entangled and identified with skating. Our self is so built up by the image of a skater, this and that, and because we become so identified with the whole thing that we get caught up, and then it's not the same thing anymore. It's like, and then we can step back again and, oh man, I can just enjoy skating and not really care about to not care, but not, you know what I mean, not care in the same way.
Yeah, not get like caught up or concerned in like in that.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you mean. Like to truly just enjoy it and not care about like all the other back end stuff. Yeah.
exactly. Which mean to care too is just a different caring.
You need like a reason to do that too, kind of. I'm trying to think of like put myself in that situation too. Like I find it hard for me to like force myself to stop skating, take a step back for like even a month or something like that, and not skate to have like a fresher view on it, I guess. It's it's hard to, unless you have an excuse to do so, to put yourself in
Hmm.
that position, I feel like.
But I'm sure, Austin, like there are times when like
Unless you're
you're
injured or something, maybe, you know?
no, I'm sure there's times when like you just get too busy with work and you're like, or too much going on. You're like, holy, I haven't skated in two
Yeah.
weeks. I haven't skated in three. Like
Yeah, yeah.
even like those little things like that. When you come back, you're like, so nice to be on. You get like that different
Yeah, yeah.
appreciation versus like skating every day. You're like, I'm sore, my back hurts. Like I'm struggling with this trick. Like
Mhm.
even just those little breaks, like and then you come back and you're like, oh yeah, just like being on wheels is fun. Great, this is awesome. Like I'm happy to
Yeah.
be on wheels. Yeah.
I always feel like there's a grace period because when I skate a lot, it does get me to that point too somehow. Like, say, for example, if I skate 1 day, 2 day, 3 days in a row, after that, you're kind of like, oh, a little worn out, whatever. But for whatever reason, say I have the time to do so, and I'll skate like 5, 6 days in a row without even noticing. On those 5, 6 days, I'm like, I could go forever like this. Like, this is amazing, incredible. Like, I feel like there's a threshold to push, at least for me anyway. And it's Billy's like, no, no way. I need a
No,
break.
I
I
can't
feel
skate
that
two
way.
days in a row. I can't skate two
Well,
days in a row.
as I was saying, 2 or 3 days in a row is kind of tough, but I feel like once you get past that point, I've been numerous times in the last like year or two during the summer when it's nice. I have like a break from work when I don't even notice that I'm skating 5, 6, 7 days in a row, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even notice that I was skating this many days, and my body feels great. I feel great. I'm having fun skating still, but you don't really get that feeling from 2, 3 days in a row, and that's like there's a weird opposite, completely opposite scenario, but getting the same feeling out of it. I don't know if I'm the only one who does that.
I think you are, to be honest. I gotta be honest.
I'm
I
the only
think
one
you
over
are.
18. I'm the only one over 18 that feels like that.
You're a real deal skate nerd, but we love you, man. 5 days in a row, bro. I don't know how you do that, man. I'll be too sore.
You used to do it all the time back in the day.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, but
Yeah.
yeah, good point. Maybe I'll try it again this week. We'll do the Austin Skate Challenge 5 days in a row.
I
We'll bring
definitely don't
that up
want
in
my own
2023.
Can you do that shit, Matt? I feel like you're physically, you said you're in the best physical shape ever. Do you feel like you can do shit like that? Like skate every single day?
It
He
depends
does every day,
what kind.
right?
Yeah,
5:30
it
in the
depends
morning.
Well, wizard
what kind
skating,
of
yeah, I guess.
what kind of skating, right? Like wizard is no impact, and I take my time with it, and I just enjoy. Sometimes I lean against the hockey thing, like the
Wall?
bound in French. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I just take the sun in a little bit, and okay, I'm trying this trick again. But if I go filming street and trying to film, which I did for the Orange video that's coming out eventually, I have a most a full street section coming up. I wouldn't do that 5 days in a row. My buddy wouldn't allow.
Yeah.
Completely different. But the wizard skating is, I don't know about for you, but when I really get into wizard skating, it hurts too, but just in a different way. Like my knees hurt
Different
from
muscles.
like different muscles, different, my feet
Uh-huh.
hurt, my knees hurt. So I can only do that for so long also. But I guess once you get in the rhythm of it, your body's used to it. It's fine and it is low impact. So I guess it does feel better. But people underestimate that type of shit. Yeah, wizard skating is tough. It's hard. It's frustrating. It's a whole different learning
Oh man.
experience. I feel like you don't know how to skate. When I started wizard skating, I'm not good at it now, but like when I first started the movements, I was like, I felt like I never skated a day in my life before. It's a whole different thing, and it's tough. It's tough on your body too.
Yeah, yeah. My calves are still sore.
Exactly, it's different muscles, and people don't
Yeah.
notice that. They think it's like it's soft if you're doing this like flatland stuff, but it's not at all. It's a whole different way of skating.
Yeah. Respect to
Um,
the guys who've been doing it, you know. Like I
Definitely.
said earlier, it looks very easy because they're good at it. And you realize when you do it, oh my gosh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
yeah. It makes sense that products coming from Canada because like I feel like we've always, as we acknowledged a few times on the show before, a lot of the Canadian skaters broke out of some of those like traditional ways of skating, and I think one of the earliest guys I can attribute is you to who brought that energy, and then obviously like the Mushroom guys, Joey and Todd, their impact in blading, Danny Beer, you go down the list, and I'm really excited to hear that you're working on a part with Orange, and that's exciting to hear. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Um, I feel like we went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I want to pull it back to quickly to you going to Peru and then coming back. Well, one, I know you're really close with Rob G, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you had an influence on him going to Peru. So that must have been like, especially everything that you'd gone through in your own life, like to see what had happened with Rob G and be like,
Yeah.
what the heck is going? That's like a crazy situation, huh?
Yeah, that was intense in many ways. I mean, I first met Rob years ago and he came to Canada to my place and I said, "Yeah, come on." I think he talked about that on the other podcast he did. And then he started going on his own to Peru and getting close to the people that I was close to, and so it was amazing. But eventually he went to a different retreat. So, and when that happened, I was recording with my friend who's a music producer, and I got a call from a friend in Peru. It's like, "Hey, do you know what's happened to Rob?" I'm like, well, I know he's just doing like a month solo retreat kind of thing. It's like, no, he got shot in the head. So I was like, oh man. And then when you hear that, that's it, lights out. You
Right.
don't think he's gonna make it or he's gonna make it complete or healthy. So I sat down and I kind of, yeah, just connected with him, and prayed and eventually I talked to his girlfriend and I heard he was still alive and all of that. So yeah, it was quite a process, but a healthy one. Like it was all good, and eventually I went to visit him in California, and he was starting to walk again, and I noticed that he was going to be okay, uh, and then I went to Peru with him again, and we got to skate together, and obviously now I knew he was going to be fine, and then he came here, stayed at my house last year, 2 months. And then I left to Brazil, and he stayed here with my wife for a month, and just did some log work and stuff. And yeah, Rob has been a very close brother of mine, but it was quite a process, and I didn't felt responsible because I was the one who opened the door for him, not opened the door, but inspired him to go to Peru. Uh, but of course, it's like, man, what a story and in the context and how it happens, like, oh man, well, yeah.
Like I just feel like both of you two are such powerful energies. Like when I'm around you guys, um, Rob has that glow inside. You have like the same thing. Like when it just kind of like, yeah, but it's. I love that you guys are like brothers in this like Blade game. I always see like Rob G make a post like Blade Brothers of the Cloth or whatever like things Rob G says. Um, but it's cool to like know that like you guys have that relationship, and like also like he's up there with you and through all this, and you guys are able to, you know, in blading, like it creates deep friendships, but it's cool when you can take those friendships like to other areas, like, you know, like some friends I'll skate with and play music with, and then you could also like kind of
Yeah.
have a different experience with that friend, and it seems like you have many of
Mhm.
these things with Rob that like can cross over.
Yeah, I mean, we both went to Vancouver together to do the breathwork training facilitator, like the training program, and we had an amazing time there. And like we have many things in common. Played music together many times, and he has a, we have a similar sense of humor. So sometimes, man, like a goofy sense of humor, like very.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can just go off things that normal people like who. What's wrong with them, you know?
Yeah.
And then we can have very deep conversation about the self and God, and like we can go into these deep conversations and then fart and laugh, you know, at the same
I
time.
love that.
Always got to have that too in a relationship. I feel
Yeah.
like your brother had chosen that in your last edit, the desert, the one you went to Arizona and Rob was there. You guys skated together. You had like a little voiceover at the end, how like nice it was to see Rob skating again after all the shit that he's been through, and to see you both skating again. That was probably one of the first times that he was out in like the public. I mean, skating. I think at one point. So it was really cool to see that too, and you could tell your relationship in that video. It stands out a lot.
Yeah, that trip was amazing. I was scared to go skate street again after all these years, and I had this idea like for the VOD, and then in my mind, it's like, is my video all right, guys? Am I cutting?
I mean, your video is like glitchy, but your audio is still coming out.
Okay, cool. Because I see myself glitching. I want to make sure that my voice was okay.
You sound good to us.
So, yeah, I was scared to go skate street because, truthfully, the only time I skated street in the last 20 years or 15 years is the time I filmed for a section because I was so busy with my career. So I haven't skated street much in my late for the last 20 years or so. So when I had the thought of doing a VOD, it's like, really? Like, there was doubts in my mind. Can I pull it off? Like, am I strong enough mentally to go street skating again? And do I really want this? And eventually, it's all turned out perfectly. And I reached out to Rob and my friend Pat from here, one of my good friends, and we rented a house with Jonas in Arizona. It was just perfect. We had a blast. It was fun.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, I was hanging in around or chatting with Rob right around that time, and I remember you were going out to film the VOD, and you came out great, by the way. And I just like, uh, yeah, like I want to quickly in a bit, not now, but we got a few more questions. We're gonna open it up if that's okay to the audience in a little bit, but I still got some things I want to dig into. Like, so we talked about like your non-pedagogical approach to skating. Obviously, I have to use this word. I learn a word, I have to use it all the time. But like you're kind of like outside of the box approach to skating, and like that is highlighted a lot in that Arizona thing. Was there ever like coming from like this way of skating where there are like certain lines within was there ever like a limiting principle for you, or were you just like, oh, I can do all of this and introduce it to skating? Like where was it like where you bring your hands and like you're using like your body, like you use your hands and like you sit on something? I saw like on the 90 seconds you did with even like even the grinds, like the back rail were like close and the backside were, it's like non-traditional ways of doing these tricks. So like how do you know what, like, is it just based off feeling like, oh, this is cool, or like how do you experiment in that way?
Yeah, very good question. For me, it has to feel right. And I have like a mental image. If I see a trick or a spot, I'll have like a mental vision of how this could look like or feel like. And if I'm able to get to that or close enough, then I'm going to run with it. Um, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And at first, when I went to Arizona for the first time, James and shout out to James Johnson, Revolution, and John Jenkins and AWOL. But when I went there for the 90-second edit, it was kind of the first time that I was really going in the States and making something with people that were known in the game. And I had doubts, of course, like I didn't know how this would be received or, whatnot. But I guess I was matured enough in myself that I didn't care too much. It just felt right for me, and that was it. And then I remember one night we had a premiere of my 90 seconds in Arizona, and there was a whole crew there, and everyone was super like, yeah, this is awesome. And it was amazing, for me to witness and to have that kind of response to it. It felt, very hard. How you say
encouraging.
Warming? Encouraging. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. So and then I just thought, okay, I can do that. Yeah, okay, this is an avenue. This is where I can express myself without feeling too much judged or anything. And then, of course, there was different opinions about my skating back then. Like I had messages like hate messages like you should kill,
wow.
Oh yeah, like you should kill yourself and
what?
Like, oh yeah, man.
How would anybody say that to anybody about skating?
And people that were known too, like some of them were known and part of some crews that you guys know that I won't mention because
tell us after the show.
No, like I don't hold anything against anyone who had those opinions because they're just opinions. They come in your mind and some people take them as important and their own, and they feel they have to spit it out, which is fine. But at the end of the day, it means nothing about what I do, what I am, and what I enjoy. So, yeah.
Man, it's. Oh, go ahead, Austin.
I was gonna say, just at that time was like 2010-ish, 2011, maybe something like that. When if you're talking about the 90-second Revolution edit, and that skating is a lot more open now. It's went to so many different directions that any type of different skating is pretty much acceptable, and people will take it as like encouragement to try to influence their own skating and try something new, something different. At that time, I feel like it was harder for someone to do that, and you went like all out, and people could do something different. Maybe some people would think it was corny or something like that, but the way you initiate everything that you do is picture perfect, and it's hard to hate on anybody when they're doing something, no matter how different it is, when they're owning the shit out of it. And that's like exactly what you showed in that particular edit.
Yeah, and it was in the era of roller news, right? So
anything
could go.
BMAG message boards
sense.
and shit.
That makes sense. It all makes sense now. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, back in the day, I'm like, okay, tell me that in my face when I see you, see how those martial arts work. But I'm not like that. I'm just kidding.
You learn a thing at 2-on-300, some Leonidas.
No.
Yeah. Listen, my boy been boxing. He's been training in martial arts. He was in 300. Do not play with my boy. I'm telling you, it's not going to work out.
I'm not like that.
No, I can't. No, I know you're not. I know you're not. But if someone crossed the line, you would take care of business. I feel like that's true too.
Well, I wouldn't let anyone hurt myself,
Exactly.
I wouldn't hurt anyone just because they have different opinions or beliefs, right? So
you're capable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I can agree because I remember like that. I feel like that was like the beginning of when people were able to like let the darker side of their humanity show on the internet, like anonymously.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it was like a new feature of the internet where like, oh, I could like be the meanest, nastiest version of myself for like a laugh or for any reaction, and you would see that. And that's kind of why I asked it, because I know that like blading could have this like very strict guidelines to adhere to, and you were definitely experimenting very much so like back in the day. And you see that experimenting happening more now. I think it's more encouraged now. You see like Colin and the basement guys kind of bringing like a lot of these ideas from the mushroom blading guys and making it more acceptable.
Oh shit, basement represent.
Yeah. But like I said, I feel like you really were one of the pioneers of kind of introducing a lot of these new ideas. And when you take ideas like, some land, some don't, like it's all part of experimenting, right? And you definitely have the courage to do that in that stage of skating. I find it to be weird that people were like sending you messages like that were that upset. I mean, I feel like those are more personal problems of individuals to say go kill yourself and things of that level. But I think it's really important and really cool to see like you introduce those ideas and have the courage to do so, especially in that time, because it brought a lot of great skating and it brought like a lot of cool ideas.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I mean, and also Dustin was starting to, even at the same time or before, introducing that in his own way, which if Dustin Latimer does it, then shut up, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta go tell him.
Can't say anything about him, man. You can't say anything. Yeah, exactly.
I like that. That should be a good shirt idea. If Dustin Latimer did it, shut up. We're talking about like,
everyone has the right to their own opinion. I don't want to shut up anyone,
Exactly.
And a word about that, I think it's worth to mention. I was sharing that with a few friends here. Going back to what happened with my mom and the guy who killed her, which I loved because I was close to him. And I knew he was suffering, but not to that extent. Otherwise, I would kind of be more aware, more present, or, So someone telling someone to kill himself because he doesn't skate the way you believe he should skate, that hate you have towards someone else ultimately exists only in your own mind. You're the one with that hate. And that hate, of course, is in your body. It's in your whole being. But you believe that this hate is justified because you have an opinion about something. But at the end of the day, you're the one caught up with this hate in your own system, in your own self. So I can only have compassion for that, which we all have our own opinions and we all have our things, and to remind myself of that when people just spit out some hate from how they are feeling, themselves in the first place.
That's a really good point. And that's kind of what I was like alluding to earlier. Like when someone says go kill yourself, it's more like their issue with themselves that they have, is unresolved. And it's normally, even though a lot of this stuff is directed at particular individuals, it's like it's coming from the person, like, and having those issues. Because I remember the reason why I know, because I remember being that person. Like, do you know what I mean? I remember being like, not like telling people to go kill. I mean, maybe I did tell people, but I don't know. But I used to be like nasty. Like we in New York, we like make fun of each other a lot, like just the culture. But I feel like in some levels, like a lot of your own resentment can come out until you make yourself good, and then you realize like, oh, like you don't need to kind of do that to be heard or to do these other things. And so I think it's good to look at things like that and like in like a way where we could learn from it or get something and not take it personal and see it for what it is,
Absolutely.
Yeah, the hate builds character on yourself too. If you could take the hate too, and being understanding and mature enough to understand where people are coming from too, be like, you probably didn't really mean that. You shouldn't have said that, but you probably don't really mean that.
Especially if you're sure of yourself. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
If someone's like, you look so weird with that blue beard. I'm like, I know that I have a blue beard, so I'm not going to react to that. But if I have doubts that I might have a blue beard, then maybe it'll push myself to look at the mirror a bit more and realize, oh no, it's just white a little bit here, but there's no blue.
I was going to say, do you have a blue beard?
That's funny.
I wanted to ask something about, I don't know if I ever asked any other Canadian skaters that we've had on the show before, but why would you say Canadian skaters are so good?
Because
hockey roots. Hockey roots has something to do with it.
I feel like that definitely has something to do with it. But besides just being a good skater, like we were just talking about it, Canadians, I guess, I know there's like some comedy thing that Joey said on the show, like you guys have a certain sense of humor, but like you guys take it in so many different directions with the wizard skating, with the parkour stuff. You don't really see that originating from any other part of the world in skating, and you guys aren't scared to involve it into your skating and show the world something new. Obviously, you guys are really good on your feet, which is probably from hockey, but I don't know if there's something else that an actual Canadian would say of why Canadian skaters are so good.
I have no answer to that. I mean, besides hockey, which when you look at a hockey player, they can skate like crazy, right? Quick turns and blah, 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 blah. And maybe jokes aside, maybe just from walking on icy roads all the time and have to be with them skating. It doesn't make any sense. I have no explanation.
That might be part of it too. Actually, I didn't think about that. We do that in New York too. You know, with the icy streets, everyone's everyone's walking
right.
like inching around, like very cautious on their feet. I used to say that actually about the Be Unique skate park back in the day, Billy. I know you remember how slippery the skate park used to be. It was like skating on ice. It was always the slipperiest floor. But we used to kill it in that park, and I remember being like, that was part of the reason why a lot of us got so good at skating, because we used to train on this slippery ass skate park, and then we would take it to like another skate park and just be that much better than we used to be, you know? That's a funny that you mentioned that though, Matt.
Yeah, I have no answer to that.
Okay.
I think it would make sense that hockey is probably relating to something like that. And like a lot of people in like in Minnesota, there's like strong skating roots there and the strong hockey scene. And you see like a lot of those things are relating and that makes sense. We have some people lining up questions.
Yep.
Before we get to those questions, I just want to touch, I know I'm kind of dragging it back to the beginning of the episode. And this might be a little mundane, but I'm actually curious. So you said you quit the stunt thing. You went to Peru. You did that. Did you find it difficult to when it came time to come back to work and get back into that? Was it difficult to come back, or did it kind of like end up working out like how it did in the past?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, there was a time where I had a hard time being in the movies business environment. Not because it's wrong or anything, it's just for myself, it was things I had to look at. And then when I came back from Peru, to answer your question, actually, um, I didn't went back to work right away. It was like a natural process, and eventually I could be like right now, or eventually I could be on set, on a movie set, and just feel as I feel when I'm sitting here meditating almost. And I can actually really enjoy it because I still love doing, I've been working on video games lately, uh, which is super fun, very physical work because there's no setting the camera. It's set and then you go all day. You do your shot list and then boom, 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 boom. But it's also very creative and very physical and it's super fun.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a natural process as I was integrating myself more and becoming more uh, comfortable, like really at peace in my own heart. Then be going back to work, that was kind of that got carried out there too, which was amazing because at first some of my peers was like, "What's going on with Mathieu? Is he losing it? He's going to Peru and he's doing that and meditating. He's searching for himself. He's lost or something," which I never felt lost actually, um, but today I can have like super nice conversation with them, and some of them are opening up to me like when they go through some stuff and, "Hey Mathieu, what do you think about that? And how did you deal with that? Because I'm dealing with this." And so it's like a full circle, yeah, I don't know if that answers the questions, but I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And is that I know you say you have a retreat now where you like in you and your wife where they don't have to go to Peru if they want to focus on their meditation and their breathing and learn these kind of things. You keep it more local. But are you still doing stunt work in this time or?
Yeah, yeah. Like last Thursday when you asked me if I, can join the podcast, and I was busy at work, I was working a video game, so doing some motion capture.
A video game.
Oh,
So
that's what you meant. That's what you meant by video game. I didn't
yeah,
understand what you meant. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I
No,
don't know what you mean. What do you mean you're working for some motion capture, a video game?
I think you had the balls on your body and you
Yeah,
were
like the
moving,
movement, you
right?
mean?
I have the balls in my sacky, you mean? No, no, no. Yeah. So you have your suit with little balls actually, which reflect light,
Yeah.
and there's like over 50 or more cameras around the studio, and it capture your movement. So, so yeah. So I've been working doing some motion captures for some video games. So we do either a cinematic or we do actual gameplay. Which can be super physical because in gameplay, when you have your controller and you go forward, your guy goes forward. But if you run, he runs, and if you stop, you stop. So when you do that kind of work all day, just doing I'm losing the term. Uh, oh man, where is it?
Plyometrics, calisthenics, like kind of.
Oh
these
yeah,
things?
that's for sure.
Okay.
It's gonna come back to me. But anyway, you have a long shot of list shot you have to go through, 45 running angle, 45 left, backwards, crouching. All of that has to be done in order for your character in your video game. You know, so it
Yeah.
can be very challenging some days, but very rewarding. You come home super tired and achy, and then the next day I go to the gym and stretch. Okay, I'm good. Let's go do some wizard.
I don't know what game you're working on right now, and I don't play video games, but I feel like if I played a video game and I saw the character moving around a certain way, I'd be like, Matthew was the person this was based off of, like the way you move. I feel like it would stand out so much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see those games I've been working on, and some of them are really big names that I can't mention right now because
I
it's
was gonna
still
say if you could, yeah.
top secret. But yeah, it's been very fun.
That's cool. You work on a lot of your job seems awesome. You work on a lot of really interesting projects and a lot of high profile ones too. It's really cool what you do.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate, very blessed, and I never sold myself, in ways. I always work with people that I like to work with, and I never was in it for the money or anything. It's just something I really enjoyed doing. And now I'm working with some friends. Actually, Thomas, who did 5 months, he's now our stunt coordinator, and I often work for him or with him. Uh, and at one point, John Bling was also doing some stunts, which was so fun to work with him, and his sense
Nice.
of humor, and I have so much fun with him on set. And now I don't think he does it much anyways, but yeah.
Awesome.
He's a bit. He's such a fascinating character himself. Man, if you ever see him, tell him I would love to get him on the podcast
A couple of people
because he
requested it in the chat before. John
Yeah,
Bling podcast.
he would be very interesting for sure. He has many stories.
that guy is one of a kind. The day I met him, he
Yeah.
almost knocked me out. It's crazy. He was so
Yeah.
violent back in the day.
Yeah, I
But
remember
shout out John Bling.
yeah, I was with Hakeem from Create Original, right?
Jamo, yeah.
Yep.
Jimo, yeah, and we were at mostly Canadian in Detroit. In Halifax. It was a show in Halifax, and it was some skateboarder guy who talked shit on the other side of a big fence. There were like 15 of them, and John Blings jumped over the fence by himself, landed in front of the first guy, and slapped him very hard. And no one did anything. The 15 guys just stayed silent. Yeah,
Dude, he's a
stories like
scary
that.
guy.
I don't know this John Bling guy. I don't know. I gotta know who you guys are talking about. I guess we'll get him on the show. I'll learn then. Hopefully
You
he
know
doesn't.
Jonathan Bergeron?
Oh, that's why you call him John Bling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Jonathan Bergeron.
Oh, we
yeah.
definitely got to get him on the show then. Fuck yeah.
Oh, we
Yeah.
definitely got to do that.
We definitely got to get him on the show. We definitely got to get him on the show.
That's funny.
There's Billy got his last question. I want to get my last thing, and I don't know if it's much of a question as like an observation, whatever. But you have one, at least in the skate world, one well-known parkour trick, and we know it because Shima did the gap in Montreal. You know, the one at the IMYTA at the stadium, and then it was around the same time that the clip surfaced of you running across it, like a parkour one. I actually have the clip to pull up here, but was this before or after Shima did the gap? Because I remember this
After.
circling around. It was after. Okay, were you like inspired by Shima to do this? Because I saw other
Ab-
parkour people do this as well. After I think it was after you did it too.
Absolutely. So Neo Men
Yeah.
tried it
Wow.
first. Yeah,
Boom, 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 boom.
I did that 3 times
Damn.
because back in the day when I trained with the Yamakasi guy, the guy who founded parkour, it's like if you don't do it 3 times, it doesn't count. You have to do it 3 times. One for yourself, one for your family and friends, and one for those who are not here that would like to do it.
Wow.
I always say to do
I-
tricks 3 times too, but not for those reasons. I like those reasons a lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, the wall was super slippery, and I had a period in my life which is that coming from. I was all about warriorship, and I was reading Peaceful Warrior, the book by Dan Millman. Very good book, actually, The Peaceful Warrior. And yeah, it was all about warriorship, like conquering my demons and conquering my fears, and it was a nice period in my life, actually.
That
I like that. I'm gonna check out this book now, The Peaceful Warrior. I've
Yeah,
I
heard
like the
about this
name. I
book.
like the name.
yeah, it's so good. It's very good.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Like I feel like that's how I kind of viewed you too. Like this guy's always on some warrior type stuff, man. Like whether it be like training regimens or workouts or just like the way you
Uh,
skated. But um, that's very cool. And to those who don't know, you dropped New Men. New Men. Wow, that guy. I remember. I didn't know he got into free running or parkour, but I remember him as a rollerblader in Last Call, and he was always like the most. I think he was French, right? But he was like the most stylish guy ever.
I mean, he tried on skate first before Shimo, right? I didn't met he did in parkour on skate. He didn't.
Oh, he tried it on skates first.
Yeah, that was in
Before Shima.
the first Kaiser video, and he slept. He didn't land it,
How do you not?
but he
What do you mean
he made it across.
Oh, but he just slid on his ass, kind of didn't like.
Yeah,
Oh, I was gonna say, how do you make that and not like just fall in the middle? So Shima was the first one to do it then.
To land
to
it.
land
To
it.
land it,
Yes.
to land it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's crazy. And I didn't know if you were like a big name in like the parkour world, because when I tried to look up that clip to get it to show on the show, there was other like there's a video of people trying to do that or doing that gap. I didn't know if you were like, they're like, oh, we saw Mathieu Ledoux do that. This guy is like, oh, he did this crazy gap. We got to try it now, type of thing.
Yeah, we
Matthew
came up
Ledoux
with
do that.
just do it. Um, yeah,
Cool.
we made a video, Stefan, my friend Steph, and I, uh, at the stadium. It was like 3 hours for a 3 minute edit for 3 hours session or whatever, and it kind of got viral in the parkour community. It was really well received. So my name was kind of known in way back, not today, but my name was kind of going around in the parkour world back then.
Cool.
Very cool.
Like I mean, it makes sense. Like some of the stuff I was seeing you, and those were like the early days, like right when parkour became like well known.
Yeah.
You were engaging in it. Like as far as I can remember learning about parkour, then there was you doing it. So
Yeah,
makes sense.
and we knew how to film, and we could film with follow-ups on skates, and so we had a different
sense.
way
makes
to
sense.
bring it and bring some style to it and the music. So everything together was like, whoa, for the parkour community who hadn't had much of that at first, was like, oh wow, this is a really good video, you know?
Yeah. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
It's cool to think about that too. Like, it's like filming on blades is such an amazing way to film. Like, you know what I mean? That just seems so obvious, but like you can't get it done in the same way otherwise. It's like
Just ask the
it's
X
kind of the
Games.
best way. Exactly. It's very dynamic. But if you don't mind, it would be cool if we could jump into some of these questions. I know we have some super chats for people who are watching live. We split our super chats, 50% of our super chats with our guest. We have some people. I'm not sure. Do we have any Patreon questions, Austin?
We got some good
We have
Patreon questions here.
Okay, we have some good Patreon questions. We have some questions in the chat. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. And we prioritize the super chats, like I said, which we split with our guest. So, Austin, if you don't mind kicking us off with some of those Patreon questions.
Yes, of course. We have first one. We kind of touched on this, but see if you have anything else to say on this from Tone Doe, who says, respect. Can you talk about the experience of filming Desert? What was going on? Where you were at? Okay, I'm reading this wrong. What was going on? Where were you at with your skating, Rob G, etc.? My guys, please do a Patreon section commentary on this piece. Well, we will do a section commentary after this, but yeah, what do you have to say about filming for Desert with Rob G?
Okay, so my internet, my internet cable or connection was pretty bad there.
Did you not
So
hear
the
me?
question? Yeah. So Tom, thank you for your question. What I got from the question is, how was my experience filming for Desert?
Yeah, what was going on? Where were you at with your skating and with Rob G?
Okay, nice. All right, thank you, Tom. Well, like I said, I touched a bit on that. First, I was kind of scared and nervous. I didn't know if I could pull that out because, going into a trip to Arizona flying over there. Jonas from Europe flying, renting a house, renting a car. So there's a lot of going into it, financially wise. So I was a bit nervous. Like, can I do this? Like, still, am I? Anyway, it was an amazing journey. And Rob and my good friend Pat from from next to my house almost came with me. So that was amazing. And having Rob there and Pat cheering me on the whole trip and just being there for me, like with the room, and sometimes it would take a long time to get a shot, and Rob's like, yeah, Matt, you got this. And so it was a very family vibe, and in the house at night we would watch a movie and just goof around and have good conversations. And then James Johnson from Revolution Skate Shop was kind enough to give me all his spots, which helped a lot because we had only 12 days to shoot the whole thing. And then obviously Jonas did an amazing job. Like, few of my tricks are, you know, they're what it is, but his filming and his editing brought so much to the video. And the vibe he brought to it with at the end, like we mentioned that, with Rob and I and our connection and just being back together. It sounds like a loving relationship, but you know, the being back skating together and experiencing, like, yeah, it was an amazing trip. And we went to Sedona, just have a day off and to watch the sunrise and the sunset. And yeah, it was a good trip, man. And I'm so happy how it came out.
Sedona's a really beautiful place, and I could see, especially being someone who's into, like, you know, breathing and meditation, and you know, I feel like that's like a mecca for in the States, at least stateside, for an experience like that. So it's really cool.
I was bugging James every trip I would go. I was bugging James, okay, let's go to Sedona. And that was the thing, him and I, every time we had to go to the Sedona together.
Yeah, every time I go to Phoenix also, I have to go to Sedona. I love just like a day trip. It's like one of my favorite cities in the country. I just love going there, if you want to call it a city. But yeah, definitely super scenic. One of the nicest places I've ever been to.
Yeah.
That's where Austin did that big soul grind in his latest part.
Yeah.
In Sedona, the curving kink rail.
Yeah.
It's famous kink rail in Sedona, yeah.
We have this. I love this question on our Patreon from Same Boat, who says, my question is, as a kid, what was your favorite part of the playground? And do you have any self-defining memories stylistically or movement-wise from that time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a really good one.
Actually, we had a very good playground when I was younger. all made of wood, like those big 6x6, right? Mm-hmm. And super high structures with like ladders and stuff. And there was an older guy there we would play tag, but he would do like some precision leaps and leaps all the way down to, there was beautiful sand at the bottom. So you could roll into the sand. And I have specific memories of doing high jumps and precision stuff there. And when I was younger, I was all about, I had that warrior type of energy still, but like conquering my fears and training my body, even at a younger age, like 10 and 8 years old. That's a good memory. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's funny.
That.
Yeah, like a playground meant for you, for like stunt guys, I guess. Future stuntmen, I guess, you know? That's cool. I love that question. We have one more from Patreon. Javier Ibanez, who says, hey, Matthew, first time I saw your skating was around 2010 when I watched your Test TV South Park section on YouTube. Man, that clip changed the way I viewed rollerblading for good. It was sick. Thanks for all your contributions to our culture. My question, I want to listen to your take on how music can influence and inspire your skating sessions. I believe in every clip of yours that I've seen, you always have earbuds in and locked in. I personally listen to music at all my sessions. I even search my playlist for a specific song before a trick or play one on repeat during a whole session. So he's asking how music influences you while you're skating.
Hi, Javier. Thank you for your question. And I'm glad that some of my skating inspired your journey. Music is a big part of it, especially nowadays with Wizard somehow. And I think Leon touched on that with the slow-mo guy. You know, slow-mo and his music. Mm-hmm. Music, of course. Music brings a vibe. It brings a feeling too. So it depends. Sometimes when I'm filming for a specific trick and I need to get juiced or I need to be in a specific mood, I'll listen to some music. And sometimes I just like to be in the moment without music, and whatever sounds is around me or friends or whatnot, I won't listen to any music. Um, so yeah, it depends on in the moment.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
You're one of the earbud guys usually. I've noticed that too. The guys who skates with the earbuds in. I don't understand you people who do that. I don't understand that. But to each their own, whatever inspires you.
I realized for me with skating, it's like I was like skating, listening to music is like the same when I'm like riding. Like I used to ride a motorcycle when I was riding my motorcycle, listening to music. I realized like I'm just way more intense if I'm listening to the music. Like
Yeah.
I'm going faster on my motorcycle. I'm skating like way harder. Like, do you know what I mean? It just gets me amped up. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing, but it's cool. Um,
All right. So we get
I,
into the
we have
super
some
chat.
super chats. If we can get into those, and then I have some questions lined up. So if you want to touch on the super chats, Austin.
Yeah, definitely. This one, we usually read the super chat questions. This one isn't a question, but I feel like I should mention this anyway because this is great. Also, I don't know if you noticed, Billy, by the way, you have the little super chats that pop up now in the corner. Got a little widget going. So when you do super chat us live, it shows up here as well as your message because we only get to the super chat questions themselves. But even though this isn't a question, I just wanted to touch on this also because it's a nice message from, I don't know how you say this, Bread TM. Huge thank you to Matt for being one of the best presents I've ever received. My girlfriend contacted him in February about Valentine's gift, and you sent a handwritten note and some orange wheels. So amazing. I feel like I had to mention that one.
Yeah, that was so nice actually. Orange is coming out with Matt Ledoux wheel,
There we
and
go.
and
And we didn't talk about orange at all. I wore an orange sweatshirt because of this episode. Even though it's not an orange wheel one, it's a Blade Army one by our buddy Joey in Hawaii. I feel like I had to wear like an orange shirt for this episode because of orange wheels. But sorry to interrupt. Go
yeah, I
ahead.
mean, there's so many things we haven't touched on, even like them skates and Mesmer and what's happening in the community and in the blading world that I'm so grateful for. Uh,
We could touch on it.
yeah, but this is. Oh, I was at the end. I think I can do some shout outs at the end, right?
Okay,
Of
we'll talk about it
course,
later.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
talk about it after
Okay,
the
let's
questions.
keep it for the end.
Okay, we'll do that. Next super chat. My bad, I didn't have any other ones lined up after that one. Okay, here we go.
Well, I see some of these super chats.
Yeah, pull 'em up real quick.
Normally, we don't say the messages, but I think it's okay to say some of these messages. Je fais mon job à plein temps is what one of the homies says in French, which means I something my job, right? I don't know. Can you translate?
Yeah, I do my job full time. So this is from a French hip hop song that plays in my first ever section coming out. It was a half section with Stéphane, the guy I was telling you about, Stéphane Julien. Je fais mon job à plein temps. And then, that's an inside thing. That's nice to
Damn, French is
that.
such a hard language. I took it for 7 years and I still don't understand anything that's happening. But
7 years, damn.
yeah, I took it for a long time. So Bedred TM says huge thank you to Matt for one of the best
I just did
presents
that
ever
one.
received. Okay, sorry.
But there's
Okay, so
another
I want to
one.
go to this one. Bedroom is me, by the way. Taylor Redfield says, just my handle wasn't my name. Haha. Question for Matt too. Any skating events / comps you're visiting next year?
People want to see you skate in the flesh.
Maybe I think Bitter Cold is coming back, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's close to you.
Yeah, maybe Bitter Cold. It's pretty not too far from my house.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Are you gonna compete?
No way.
But would you skate at least?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Michael Martino says, just sending some love. It's been a while since I jumped on a jump street and loving this episode. Big hugs, Matt. Thanks for sharing everything. Shout out to Billy and Austin for keeping this amazing thing going. Shout out Mike
Oh,
Martino.
yeah, thank you, Mike.
Yee-hoo. Hey, Mike. Yeah.
And another French guy says, a Canadian guy. I put him in the category. I said he was French. He's Canadian. I don't know if he speaks French or not, but he says inspiration slash influence you take from Phil Casabon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, those who knows. Like some of my skating is very influenced by, not very, is influenced by Phil Casabon, which is a skier up from Valets back up here. Amazing skier, and his style and his approach is very appealing to me and resonate with me a lot. Um, yeah, so absolutely. I'm gonna get the Nordic uh, hockey shirt eventually.
Hmm.
Those knows will know what I mean.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Last super chat is from Brooklyn Podcasting Studio. Not a question. He just says, "What up, guys? Just showing some love. Glad I could catch the tail end of this in between sessions. Shout out Brooklyn Podcasting Studio. We had a podcast there. They hosted us when we had our podcast with Levi
Levy.
Van Ryn.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was cool to see him come in. We have some questions in the chat. I'm going to jump into some of these. Dope Tag says, "My question, Mathieu, what does sponsorship mean to you nowadays? How do you see it in the future for yourself and generally?"
Good question.
Thank you, Dope Tag, which I think probably not his real name, but uh, that's a good question actually because I let's start with Orange. Is my only, I would say, official skate sponsorship at the moment, which I didn't want to have any sponsor actually, but the Orange guys are my friend, and when I tried the wheel, I was like blown away. Like, wow, these actually wheels are very good, and I actually would like to skate them. So that's how I got with Orange. Um, and at my age, and doing what I do, I don't, I like to be free. I don't have to have any obligation towards skating. And that was like that even back in the day. I remember when USD approached me. Um, that's in a whole other story, but they asked me if I want to have a paycheck, like a monthly pay check, and I said actually no, I don't. I rather just do content, and if have an exchange when I do content, because I didn't want to have any obligations towards skating. And today's the same. I really enjoy with them skate. John sent me a few pair, I think 3 pairs of skates, and I bought a bunch of them skates because I really love them. And just to receive skates from John it felt very good. I felt like a kid having some skates and like, wow, man, this is awesome, and feeling appreciated. And so thank you, John, for that. Also, Create Original has been sending some frames my way, and I love those frames, and I'm very grateful for that. But they're not official sponsorship, and I like it this way. And I think in general, like I would, like at Mesmer or John Bellino or people that are really doing this. I don't consider myself someone who is actually really into it, like in the same way as you, Billy, or Austin, or some of the pros out there right now, which their life is still very dedicated to skating, most of their life, of course. Um, so for me, I just like to be free and skate wherever I feel like skating and trying different things if I feel like it and having no responsibilities towards it.
I like hearing people's perspectives on sponsorships now that aren't like a younger kid trying to like be pro and stuff, because you do have a different outlook on it. At least I do now than I did when I was younger. But to hear that you turned down a paycheck from USD back in the day is kind of crazy, because I feel like anybody who's just going to give you money for whatever, like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. But they gave you a pro skate. Did they pay you for that at least when you had your pro USD?
Yeah, they did, and they
Okay.
actually they actually proposed 2 other pro skate right after that. I think I'm cutting a black
You're
one
good.
and a white one, which really looked really dope and nice, but I didn't feel authentic going through that. So I kind of just said no. I said, no, I'll give it to someone that really wants it and it would be very stoked. And my life was moving in different ways. So I refused 2 pro skate from USD.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's noble. That's
How,
really noble.
how did USD come at you getting a pro skate too? Because I feel like that happened like really quickly, and they offered you 3 pro skates, total. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, they first asked me if I wanted to be M on the team. And that was when I was with SSM. and I don't have much regret in my life. And one of them is that the fact that I didn't call Brian Shima to talk to him first. That's one of my little regret in life, which I've forgiven myself for, but uh, because I really respected Brian and what he was doing and what he was about. Um, anyway, long story short, USD approached me and the skate felt very good for my skating, and there was a power blading thing coming out, and I said, I don't want to be amateur. I don't care enough. If you want me to skate USD, I want to be pro. And I was so detached from any. I was so detached from it. I didn't expect to become pro like super quick, you know. And also I also mentioned I want to pro skate if I want to go and skate for USD. So they asked the team at that time, which I think Billy you were still on or something. Anyway, I got a pro skate and I was kind of blown away. Sorry, you want to say something, Billy?
No. No. I was thinking if it was SSM, then maybe we were
Oh
both on
no,
SSM at the same time, so maybe different time. But I don't want to dig through time stamps. It's tough to do.
okay.
So go ahead.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. So basically, I just said if I'm going to skate USD, I would like to have a pro skate. Otherwise, I'm just going to skate whatever I want to skate, and or keep skating for SSM. And they said yeah, which I was surprised at first. And then they asked me what kind of deal that I wanted, and I didn't want any paycheck because I didn't want to have any locked in responsibilities towards skating. And obviously from my career I would do in one day what most pro skaters would do in a month or so. Not because I'm better or anything, it's just a fact that at that time, and I love my career, so that was not a big brainer for me.
Yeah.
Damn, you came out the gate swinging with that one. Like, nope, only if I get a pro skate.
Because I
awesome.
didn't, yeah, I was completely whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I think we'll just take. We have another super chat. We'll take this and one more question. Before I get to that, Zeke Kabinski says the true spin backslide Mathieu did in his Revolution 90-second edit is probably the best one ever done. Please let him know. He wanted me to let you know, so I had to let you know before I moved on to this next question. Sean Michelson says, I loved your blading and refreshing perspective that you brought to the sport for years now. Also, appreciate your honesty and vulnerability in this interview. Me too. Have you ever thought about trying Ninja Warrior? Cheers. Seriously, have you? Come on. This seems like a no-brainer.
At the gym that I train at, the parkour gym, there's a Ninja Warrior section. I suck at it.
No way.
Well, I just don't enjoy it. That's why.
I'm surprised that
Yeah.
like every like little kid, I feel like not even little kid, like adults like us, I consider us little kids still. We have that little kid mindset, but like want to just go to a Ninja Warrior course and like jump all over the place and try to figure it out.
It's hard.
Yeah, I can bet.
That's why the climbers are doing so good. They're so light and their grip is so good. I got too much bottom heavy from my skating and other things. my butt is too heavy.
I just
Cool.
remembered that you told me how to backflip too at a trampoline park. I don't know, when they talk about parkour gym, I thought about trampoline park. You told me how to backflip at a trampoline park back in the day. Do you remember that?
Nice. I know, but that's very nice.
Well, I remember it. That's what counts.
I remember meeting you for the first time, and you were eating.
Sunflower seeds?
Seeds.
Yes.
That's what everybody remembers me as. Now I'm the pizza guy, but I used to be the sunflower seed guy back in the day.
No, I remember you for more than that. You
Yeah.
were also, sorry, I remember you for more than that. You were also super kind and super open, and you made me feel very comfortable. That I remember clearly.
Thank you. No one's ever told me that before.
There you go.
Well, I think we have a lot of stuff we've gone through. There's a lot more stuff we can go through. It'd be cool to maybe have you come on in the future if we
Yeah,
can do this
definitely.
again, hopefully live, because it seems like we have a lot more we can talk through. We're going to, in a bit, go to Watch Desert for our patrons. If our patrons want to come check us out, like I said, you could be a patron for as little as $3 a month, and you get access to exclusive content with our guests and other things that we are continuing to do. I'm going to put out an Inside Out this week and a 3-piece, just saying. So we're going to catch up. Hashtag just saying, we out here. But before I let you go, Mathieu, is there anything that you wanted to say? Shout outs, last words, thank yous, anything that we forgot before we let you go?
Yeah, I want to give shout out to my wife first. My friends, they know who they are. Them Skates, Julio, man, so inspiring. Creator Regionals for sending me some frames and made me feel like I'm an important person somehow. And the whole community, I've been receiving so many props and so many messages, and I read them all. And I really appreciate the time people take to do that. Basement, Kelso's, man, so good to watch and so inspiring. You guys, Jump Street, I love watching, and when I drive, I usually put him on Spotify. So it's been very nice. Thank you guys for having me here today. There's so many things, so many people I would like to give shout out, but basically everyone who's watching this and take the time to come on live today or watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. And one more, which one? Martino and what they've been guys doing with Sagona, very inspiring too, for me at least. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, skate, have fun, love your neighbors, forgive easily, keep your heart pure, and enjoy life.
Oh, that was a good way to end it. Matt, you're the man. Thank you so much. I'm so happy we finally, after like a year or probably more than that, got to make this work and finally get you on the show. We will get you on again in the future someday too. We hope you all enjoyed it. We're going to do a Patreon video after this so our Patreon supporters can enjoy that as well. But everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.